Hello, and welcome to Fantasy Football Scouts Double Trouble Game Week 21 Gianni Team Reveal video. My name is Seb. I will be your host in the absence of Az, and I have with me the man himself, Gianni, looking real cuddly, I must say. You look very, very cuddly today.
I know people think I have this sort of harsh persona, but actually I'm just a big teddy bear, really, mate. So yeah, Az is sunning it up in Mexico, isn't he?
Is it Mexico?
I've seen an Instagram post. It looks like he's having a great time. He went hard on the first night by all accounts.
Oh, well, I mean, that's the way, right? That's the way. You
Yeah,
say Instagram. I think, when everyone was like, Twitter's dying because a billionaire took it over. I think I set Instagram up then. You very kindly were like, oh, hey, cool, Instagram share. I think that was the last time I logged on. So maybe I'll have to see Az's holiday pics.
yeah. I'm surprised he didn't put them on Twitter actually, because he's not a big Instagrammer, but
No.
maybe because he's in Mexico, he's going to gram everything. Anyway,
Mexican
good
holiday
to be
feels like a
here.
gram thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it does. It does. You're
So
right.
I'll just shout hi to a couple of people in the chat. We've got Milos, Joshua, Heather. Thank you so much for joining us. By the way, setting this up was a little different to usual. So if there's some audio or something weird, either bear with or just shout at me and I'll try and fix it. For example, right now I can see the very top of the word as just above mine because I'm obviously using Az's account here, but that'd be fine. I'm sure it's a little bit low tech, but we'll have some high tech, high quality chat instead. Speaking of that, let's look at your points for, game week 20. We're kind of most of the way through it now. Got a few players left. You've got half of a very big chip left. So why don't you talk us through this, your 56-point haul as it stands?
It feels like a big chip because it's a chip, but triple captain is the weakest of the three, right? Or if we include wildcard, it's the weakest of the four. So I know loads were stressing, do they, don't they? I was okay doing it because, well, one, I felt like it was a good time. I can list you all the reasons. I don't need to go into that. We discussed all the reasons to wildcard or to triple captain last week, I guess. But even if it goes wrong and he blanks on Thursday night, I'm not going to be too disheartened because it's a chip where if you get 10, you're happy. If it happens to be 4, it's 6 different. It's not the end of the world. And also, it allows us to be flexible with the optimal chip strategy for you as a manager moving forward around the doubles if you've already lost your triple captainship, I think, because I love to free hit in double game weeks, for example, not in blank game weeks. So again, if we're looking at triple captain in a double game week later in the season, I don't want to be blocked from potentially free hitting or bench boosting or wild carding. So I'm fairly happy, and whatever happens on Thursday, I'm okay with. Also, I know I'm in the same bed as loads of my mates and loads of my competitors out there, that people I'm competing with in my mini leagues, other Scout Pro pundits like yourself, Seb, I know they've also triple captained too. So there's that little level of security there. For me, I'm thinking around 30-40% of FPL Twitter has used that chip. So yeah, it's fine. Disappointed that he blanked. It's not great, but I didn't expect much against United. Spurs is the fixture we expect because it's at the Etihad. You're back Man City at home, and on the road they don't score many, but at home they really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said you think quite a few people have used it. I think I saw a stat which was 80% of the current top 10K, now obviously that's current, right? Not the eventual, not previous years, have still got their triple captain available ahead of this week, and only 15% of them used it. So there's a healthy chunk, over half of the people who are already in the top 10K, so maybe have used chips, have still got the triple captain left and obviously haven't used it this week. And I used my triple captain this week as well, so I asked this honestly. You were saying, oh, I'm happy with, 4 points is what it is, 10 would be nice, etc. Do you think there's a little bit of cope there? And I kind of hope there is because I'm in the same boat. It's Haaland. It's a double. Like Rashford could be about to get a lovely double. Haaland could have one in future. Do we think we really should have done better there? We should have got more out of it?
Probably, yeah, probably. It's so difficult to talk about it until it's happened, but I am expecting a return. So I'm expecting Haaland gets 6 points as a floor on against Spurs. Now, maybe that's me being crazy optimistic, but I think it's very possible the way Spurs have been defending. So yeah, if he does go and blank and gets a 4-pointer over the double, you could argue it was the wrong play. We should have held it. But I did find it amusing that going into this double, loads were speaking about should it even be triple captain? Should it even be Haaland with triple captaining? Kane's got a double. Rashford's got a double. One of those fixtures for Rashford is Crystal Palace. Now, looking back, Rashford probably will outscore Haaland. But all season, we've not had the conversation around giving the armband to Rashford or other players. Yet it was triple captain week, and everyone was looking at or discussing the idea of maybe other players. And I was like, you're just not going to do that. Maybe now, a double game week, if Haaland blanks and Rashford does well, maybe that conversation is open for, say, game week 23 when Rashford potentially will have a nice double. But until that point, we need to know that Haaland's blanking consistently to even consider taking the captain armband off him, let alone triple captain.
Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? Because we had so many people earlier in the season, myself included, maybe going against Haaland. Obviously, the
Yeah.
conversation was, is it permanent Haaland captain? He's so good. Then we get to the triple, and I mean, not unjustified, but it's kind of switched. It was almost the opposite. It was going, you can't be doing it, Haaland, this week. For me, this isn't about me, so I won't go on about mine too much. But for me, it was about just the certainty of him having a double, him being fit. Yes, there might be better fixtures in the future, but we don't have that for sure. We don't know, you know what, there's a 10% chance he might be injured. It's Haaland. And then also that loss of, it was the Bournemouth double, wasn't it? That for me
Yes.
pushed me into this week because I was, look, that would be the next great one. Potentially, I should have considered Rashford more. Not this week. I would have gone for, if there's Palace and Leeds, but then that's that certainty question. And Liverpool could well get a decent one as well. You don't have Liverpool, as far as I see here.
No,
You must be feeling all right about that. Have you had none since the restart, or did you do the Salah to De Bruyne move?
yeah, no, I never had Salah, but I did have Darwin. So Darwin went to Kane,
Ah, my boy.
which a lot did, didn't they? A lot
Yeah.
did Darwin to Kane. And I didn't want to sell Darwin. And I was actually going to go Havertz to Kane. And I had the funds to do that by downgrading Cancelo to Botman, which would have been a good move. Potentially, Botman got a clean sheet, although Havertz did get me six. As soon as I saw that Darwin injury, I just thought, no, Kane to Darwin. My team structure's then slightly better because I did think that was too top heavy with Kane, Darwin, and Haaland as the front three. Although, look, maybe that's a direction we go in. Let's see how Kane delivers in the next couple of weeks because I do think Darwin will be a player I own again. I don't know if I'll make the De Bruyne to Salah switch. De Bruyne has Wolves. Let's see, and he has a double coming up. If I want Liverpool cover, I do think I'll go back towards Darwin before I look at Salah. Or maybe one of the fullbacks becomes a thing again, and it's Trent or it's Robbo. But for the time being, I'm steering clear of Liverpool defenders. And Darwin, as annoying as he's been, we know you can back the fact he's going to be a good FPL asset at times. He's going to have waves, and when he does, I want to be on that train. And look, I bought Darwin game week 3, I think, of this season. He got sent off. And I jumped super early on him.
Yeah.
All I needed to see for Darwin was I saw him in the Charity Shield. I saw him game week 1 and 2. He had 2 sub appearances, came on and caused carnage, and I think got points. I bought him game week 3, and everyone was like, "You're mad." And yeah, it was a bad call because he got sent off, but the points were there for him, and I love seeing that in a striker. I'm the guy that bought Timo Werner early 2 seasons ago, and it was a bad decision that, and maybe Darwin will prove to be a bad decision if I keep giving him keep backing him, but I just know there's points there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to go over my thoughts too much. We've covered that on the Scoutcast to death. But I'm a Darwin fan. Yeah, his finishing might be terrible, but he's putting up the numbers. When I say numbers, spreadsheets or just watching football. Either way, he's getting the chances. Yeah. That he just can't not deliver points eventually. The question for me, obviously fitness, so you've lost him here, which is fair. It's then, can we do better for the fixtures? Those first few fixtures, which were good, and a potential double, which I don't think he's going to get, at least in the immediacy, were the attractive thing. Unfortunately, he hasn't delivered there, so we should reconsider him again with a clean slate, as it were, in the future. For now, fair enough. A couple of other players I'd love to ask about in your team. So I guess let's go for Chelsea. So you've got Kepa, you have got Ake, but you didn't go for, say, the Edison. You've got Ward, obviously Leno, fair enough. So you went a bit cheaper there, and Havertz up front as well. You sent me the clip last week of you. What was it? Mentioning, if Seb was here, he would do this, but Seb's ranked 400k, so maybe let's ignore what Seb would do. Talk to me about your Chelsea boys.
Yeah, so Kepa's going to be a long-term hold. Like him and Ward, it's budget. And look, Chelsea have some difficult fixtures like Liverpool, but I still think there's clean sheet potential and save points there for Kepa. And look, as many mistakes as Kepa makes, he's actually a very good shot stopper. As a Chelsea fan, I'd like to see him replaced by someone like David Raya at Brentford eventually, and I'm sure he will be. But for the time being, Potter likes him. Mendy, when fit, won't be back in because he wants someone that can play with his feet, and Mendy's not good with his feet. We saw what Potter did at Brighton. He got rid of Ryan straight away and brought in Sanchez because someone that can play. And Kepa can do that. He's not a bad shot stopper. He'll be a good FPL option at that price point. And up front, Havertz, he was meant to be a 1 week punt, Seb. Game week 17, off the back of the World Cup, with Chelsea at Bournemouth. Havertz went and got, like, was it 12 points that week? So it was a great 1 week punt. But that's all it was meant to be. And then I had other fires, Reece James or Darwin injuries or whatever. So he stayed in my team and he got, I captained him in the double game week 19 where he blanked. He got 4 points. But then Crystal Palace at home was too good a fixture to sell him for. Palace have been terrible at the back, terrible. And Havertz really could have, not going down to every chance should be a goal, but Havertz should have scored more than one goal in that game. He could have had a hat trick of headers. And going into the Liverpool game, who are also bad at the back, I'm again reluctant to sell. Is he a long-term hold? No, but for the time being, he's doing the job. He's also outscored Martial since the restart, Wilson since the restart, Mitrovic since the restart. Now, they're the three strikers that loads of people have been buying. And it's been widely accepted that those three can be in your team, and no one would comment on Twitter to say, why is Mitrovic in your team or why is Martial in your team? Yet everyone feels like they need to comment on why is Havertz in my team every bloody week. And it's annoying because he gets the minutes and he's actually been getting the points.
I mean, it's a Chelsea player, and we know you're a Chelsea. Well, you're a Chelsea and Inter and AC and PSG and whoever else fan. But yeah, exactly. You're just a fan of good football, Gianni. That's what we're here for. Good, passionate football, and ideally a little bit of Italianness. But I think that's fair enough. So the last player then, Almiron.
Yes,
Hot
there's a
before
few
the
in
World
the chat
Cup,
questioning me on
cold
Almiron.
after the World Cup. What do you think?
Is he in your team?
He's not, and he never has been. For me, now I risk saying this and earning the wrath of the community, but he reminds me of the Lingard. But before people jump on me, when Lingard was brilliant at West Ham, he had decent numbers, and he looked brilliant on the pitch. It wasn't like he was it maybe Bernardo last year, who was basically just jamming, great player, but jamming FPL points. Lingard was good. He just performed even better. He delivered FPL points that were nuts for what he was putting up. Almiron, similar sort of vibes. I think his XGI per 90 was mid 0.45s, which is really good, especially for that price. It's good. So there is underlying backing there. But obviously what he was doing was scoring worldies every other week.
Relying on worldies.
Yeah, which we just know isn't sustainable. So I didn't not pick him because I thought, oh, he's terrible, he'll regress, whatever. I just didn't pick him because I didn't have the opportunity. And now we're maybe seeing, he's still playing really well from what I've seen. If you're a Newcastle fan, I think you're very happy with him. His pressing numbers are great. But FPL-wise, fewer shots, fewer worldies, probably just because that old word variance. Yeah. But does that mean you're looking elsewhere in your team because Newcastle don't have the doubles? We maybe have a Brighton player could fill that spot. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I really want a Brighton mid, and I am looking at Almiron potentially out for a Brighton mid. The concerns with Almiron are, yes, he's been relying on worldies, but also Newcastle's shot volume and goal volume are certainly dipping, right? They are absolutely amazing at the back. They are clean sheet monsters. There's an argument to say we should all have double Newcastle defence. Why the hell don't we have? Because we don't benefit from Trippier's clean sheets because of his ownership. That actually, to benefit from Newcastle clean sheets, you need more than just Trippier. And Botman's 4.4 and Burns 4.5 and Scher's 4.9 or whatever he is. But I don't think you need Newcastle attack. You don't need Callum Wilson. You don't need Almiron. Isak's coming back into the fold. Now, could we see a front two? And if we see a front two, where does Almiron play? Does Almiron start? I think Almiron will be part of a front three with Isak and Wilson, and maybe Joel Linton goes back to the midfield three. Joel Linton's been playing wide left, St. Max came on for him at the weekend, or in that position at the weekend. But Almiron is getting first subbed and second subbed a bit. In game week 18, well, since the restart, he's at an 82 and 83 and an 84. That's what you expect. He was getting those sorts of minutes, but he's also had a 67. If he's going to be first attacking sub, it's a little bit of a concern, because for a team that don't score a huge amount of goals, you want to be getting 90 minutes from their attackers to increase those chances, and 67 isn't going to cut it. So that the fixtures are there to keep him. It's Palace, West Ham, Bournemouth. But the fixtures are arguably there for a Brighton midfielder that's got a much higher ceiling. Much lower ownership, which is scary for some, selling a 40% owned Almiron. What is he? Yeah, 42%. That's crazy. That's I thought I was exaggerating that purposely, saying 40. I thought he was probably 30 to 40. He's 42. But going to a differential in a March or a Matoma, there's a big appeal there, actually cheaper in price as well. So I am looking at Brighton, and loads will say, oh, Brighton might blank in 25. Worry about that in 25. If the fixtures are there for points now, go for it. And they might actually double before that too. Even more reason to buy Brighton midfielders. I think Almiron out to March or Matoma is either a very sensible move this week or possibly in a week's time. So you could give Almiron the Palace fixture, although Brighton do go to Leicester, which is nice. But then ahead of that West Ham fixture, maybe then you sell Almiron to March or Matoma. It also gives you another week to scout which one of March or Matoma, because that is the $1 million question for me.
I mean, we had a look at this on Scoutcast, and I think for me, from those two, it would be Matoma. Again, you watch, I think he looks brilliant. The numbers are very, very good, although small sample, and the price is excellent. March is, I think they're actually the same now, so meh.
Yeah, 5 and 5.1 for March.
Yeah, cool. March is decent, but again, potentially being either those numbers are going to catch up because his role has changed or his levels have changed, whatever that is. But playing off the left, I think it is. We know he's probably the midfielder now as opposed to filling in back in the defence every now and again. But for me, it would probably be Matoma and McAllister. I like my penalties, especially if McAllister also plays further forward in that kind of Lallana 10 role. And then maybe March. It has that little whiff of chasing points. But hey, like there's not a huge amount in it. If you think he continues it, absolutely fair enough. And I feel like in what you were just saying there is a lovely way to sum up maybe some of the differences between me and you. When I'm like, I'm going to wait on Brighton. Like, I mean, I've got 2 transfers this week, so maybe I would, but that's for another day. But I'm probably going to wait on Brighton because, there are reservations, whether it's double blanks, etc. You're just like, get Brighton. They're doing great. Just
worry
vibes,
about
man,
a possible blank in 25.
Yeah.
Like, let's not put off buying Brighton players now because they might blank with a whole host of other teams where you've got players from their teams in 25. No, think of the upside and a double there. Guys in the chat, let us know. Is it Matoma or March for you? Just give us a name, Matoma or March. I think most are going to go Matoma because he had a good World Cup and we feel like we know him a bit more. But Solly March, for me, Seb, he's playing wide. So this is a guy that's been playing under Potter at times like left wing back. Well, he's playing right side of a front three now. When you look, I love an average position map, Seb, and you can check this all out on the Scout members area, right?
Oh, sorry, he's on the right, isn't he? I said left. He is on the right. Matema's on the left, of course, yeah.
I didn't want to correct you there, so I just subtly did it now.
Oh, you correct me away, my friend. Please, please, please.
But yeah, wide right, I looked at the touch map against Liverpool, average position map. He was the most advanced player on the pitch by a country mile. Honestly, it was a sort of map. You look at Mo Salah for Liverpool. I didn't look at the Liverpool map in that game. But if you didn't say what team was this, if you said what team is this, you'd go, that's a Liverpool team and that's Mo Salah, really high and wide on the right. And it was March. And I looked at some of the other maps since the restart. He's in a completely different position. He said he's got the confidence to shoot. He said De Zerbi is saying, you're a guy that gets goal involvements. You've got to be. And then I looked at what De Zerbi did at Sassuolo. And Berardi, who I've never loved Berardi, was getting in the Italy team over Chiesa at the start of the Euros, but was playing wide right. His goal involvements under De Zerbi was something like 25 goals and assists a season for 2-3 seasons. Like he was scoring 18 goals. He was on pens, but sort of 8-10 assists as well.
He was the main guy as well. Like he was
the main guy.
He had most of the production went through him in that team.
Yeah, it really did. There was still a number 9 in that team, but it was Berardi getting all the points to attacking involvement.
And I wondered then deeper being a Locatelli, what he does, that beautiful. It feels like we have a lot of them in either in Italy or Italian, but I have a massive soft spot for that type of player, one that'll never get you FPL returns, but in real football, just so important.
Is an absolute cog, a key cog. But I was like, is March going to be the new Berardi? Like, is that what he's doing here? And it was only the average position map that's made me see that. It's not that he's got the same playing style or talent style or tactics, but in a similar position on the pitch. I like that a lot. And look, Matoma's also going to be great. And Matoma for ability, I'm not sure if Brighton are even going to be able to hold on to Matoma for a year or two. Like, March is possibly playing at the very top of his game, and that's the best we've ever seen him playing a Brighton shirt. And he's had 5-6 years to impress us in the Premier League at Brighton, and he never has. Matoma's just come in and hit the ground running. So talent level, I like Matoma. But in terms of FPL points here and now for the next few weeks, I really like March. So
talk to me, just before we move on to your team for next week then, which I guess we've kind of done a bit here with Brighton, but talk to me about the last one in that kind of trio of possibilities. in McAllister. The only World Cup winner there, maybe on penalties, maybe a little further forward based on what De Zerbi has said, and in the cup. But then I actually think in the league, he came deeper again, didn't he?
He was in the midfield 2 again in the league, but
Yeah.
in the cup, he was in the 10 and he scored. He scored that amazing little backflip heel. I don't know. I like wide forwards over 10s for usually goals, and therefore I think we'll see more attacking involvements from the two wide men, Matoma and March, especially when you look at De Zerbi's teams. The points come from wide. Knowing McAllister will be in either the 10 or the 8 doesn't appeal as much. Ferguson, by the way, who was the number 9, I know Welbeck came on, also drops quite deep. And him and McAllister in similar sorts of spaces. The reliance on the wide forwards to get goals in that team, Matoma and March are going to be the talisman. So I like McAllister for the penalty appeal, does add, but no, he's actually more expensive too. He's 5.4. I'd definitely be looking at the wide guys.
Yeah. If it wasn't for Welbeck, I'd be all over Ferguson. I nearly was. But anyway, let's move on to your game week 21 team. Of course, the caveat being we have one match tonight, another tomorrow still to go. So injuries, news could change things. We also have cup matches, which could change the double and blank landscape going forward, although I don't know if we're due for confirmation of that. But why don't you run us through your team and then share your thinking?
From those in the know, it feels like, or not in the know, those are good at predicting double game weeks and stuff. It does feel like we're not going to get complete clarity on potential doubles till after this deadline for the 22 doubles that could involve teams like United and Leeds getting a double or Brighton getting a double. So loads are saying roll transfer this week. But I'm still of the mindset, if a player's hot, jump on them early, and someone like a Brighton mid. But yeah, at the moment, my team, and for podcast listeners as well, like Kepa and goal is safe. And the guys at the back, Trippier, Ake, White, can't see me selling any of them. The midfield, De Bruyne at Wolves. De Bruyne could blank on Thursday night. I'd still hold him. Not interested in that sideways move to Salah yet. Martinelli, Rashford and Almiron. And it is Almiron that I've got the question mark over. And then again, up front with the fixtures, you're not going to sell Kane, who goes to Fulham. Haaland with Wolves. And Havertz at Liverpool is a really tough game on paper. But when you look at recent form and look at that Liverpool defence, Havertz, the 1 week punt in game week 17 is probably going to get another couple of weeks in my team because he plays Liverpool, then Fulham again. And for the time being, he's kind of nailed for 90.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think the thing that jumps out to me was the same thing that jumped out with before we talk about a potential transfer is with Andy's team. Although you've done the opposite. So he had Shaw starting and White benched, although he did have Cancelo. And I think his feeling was like he'd play Shaw and White and maybe bench Cancelo because he was sick of him. White, Shaw, is there much in it? You've gone White. What tips you that way?
Yeah, I mean, last week I benched White, which was annoying, but I played. No, was it the week Trippier and White played each other?
You've got White with 8 points on the bench this week, my friend. If I flick back to your previous team, he's second on your bench behind Andreas. I'm guessing. I mean, Shaw's doubling, Ake's doubling. You weren't going to bench Trippier, so maybe that was just over a midfielder. You were always going to bench White. I don't think you can hate that.
It was the week before that when White and Trippier played each other. And I benched White again. I should have started them both. I think was it 0-0. But yeah, so White's been on the bench a lot. And I like it's the home advantage. That's all it comes down to with White versus Shaw. It's so difficult to call. You could argue Shaw gives you a little bit more of attacking threat because of the set pieces, although he could play centre back and then the open play attacking threat decreases, so maybe it's level. But this goes down to one thing and one thing only: it's home advantage. If Shaw was the home player, I'd be benching White. So it's minimal there. But I'm set it will be White. I won't change on that.
Fair enough. Haaland captain, not gonna waver on that. Other options in the team.
Do you know, loads will move the armband off Haaland if he blanks again on Thursday night. Which
you think?
Silly to me.
Wolves
I think they'll be frustrated with it. I think they'll be really frustrated. I don't know. Maybe not because Rashford plays Arsenal.
Yeah.
If Rashford had a good fixture, I think everyone would be looking at Rashford captain over Haaland if he blanks on Thursday. But whether he blanks on Thursday or not, Haaland captain against Wolves at home is in for me. Kane does have Fulham, and Kane will be the one that some might look at. But again, FPL managers often go off recent weeks and they will look at the fact Kane got a blank and go, he got a blank against Arsenal. I'm not even going to consider him with the armband. But I do like Harry Kane away against Fulham, and Kane's away form this season and Spurs away have been quite good, and Kane's been a reliable goal scorer away from home. And Fulham, whilst they're having an unbelievable season, will still concede chances, especially against Harry Kane. Put himself on Tim Ream, and I think he'll have a good time. So Haaland captain is easy for me, and it will stay there. But if I was to look outside the box, it would be Kane.
I think that's reasonable. You've got one free transfer and 0.6 in the bank. We spoke about Brighton. Are you going to Brighton?
The only asset, there's two potential moves I could make. That's I like the idea of going double Newcastle defence. So Ake could come out if he lost his place. But I do think Ake will start Thursday night, even with Diaz and Stones back. I think he's Pep's number one left-sided centre-back at the moment over Laporte. I think this game week already has shown us that. I also think he might be Pep's still number one left-back. I don't think Cancelo is going to be completely locked in that role moving forward, not for the next couple of weeks anyway. He goes through these phases, Pep. But should Ake come out, that could be Botman. I could go Patterson to Botman. Patterson is out for another 5 weeks, I think it is. It was 6 weeks when he was originally injured, so 4 or 5 weeks. So that's one move I could make. Or the other one is Almiron out to March. Or Matoma, but I perhaps need to do a bit more research, but I am veering towards March.
Yeah.
So it could be a roll, it could be Almiron to March, or it could be Botman in for Patterson or Ake. But for the time being, I think it's more likely to be a midfield transfer. I just feel like I want a bit of that Brighton goal threat. And the ceiling at Brighton's big at the moment. The scoring goals for fun, and Leicester are all over the place. I know it's away from home, and I like to bring in players for good fixture runs at home. And I don't mind that too much with Leicester because they're just so poor at the minute. So I might slam on, or I might give it another week.
Out of the chat, Mikhail says, no, don't play Ward. There's been that this season. It's been don't play Ward, he gets points. Do play Ward, he doesn't get points. I think it's a tough one with goalkeepers this week. Because like a lot of people have Edison, although you do have Ake, so fair enough. Kepa with the saves and the bonus when he gets those saves is almost tempting against a Liverpool team who also against, obviously, mostly a second string team, but was it Wolves last night? They put up something like 0.2 XG. It was
0.15.
1.5. That is.
And Wolves were 1.4 or something.
Yeah, I don't know if because Liverpool, when they were good, they were so good. And part of that was them, overperforming underlying numbers, but in a good way, in the way that good players and good teams do overperform. That's the point. I feel like, they've stepped back a bit. It's not sack Klopp time, but the midfield, we know, needs refreshing. Maybe some other things haven't quite clicked. But because when they were good, they were so good, it's like they've just sprung back and, gone below their mean, as it were. But it doesn't really look like... this is super match of the day analysis, but it doesn't look, by which I mean, surface as opposed to bad. I think match of the day is one of those things where it's good for watching the football, it's good for enjoying the football, it's good for taking away like big points, but it isn't designed to look too deep, right? You're watching it through someone else's eyes. But to over-explain that, not insult, I promise. I think for me, you would expect them to, if they were struggling, not to be struggling so much, and at least looking like they had solutions. But signing Hakpo, I guess when they've got injuries. But unless they're adding a midfielder this month, if not something else, I don't know if they're fixing this anytime soon.
Yeah, thank you for saying Hakpo.
Dutch partner, so I probably still want.
You're the only content creator I've heard say Hakpo. It's grinding on me, the Gakpo-ness, because I don't know. I podcast with some my Friday nights on Chasing Green Arrows with Dean, who's a journo, and he says Hakpo, and
nice.
because of that, I do. But yeah, it's not Gakpo, everyone, and it's not Gnonto, it's Nonto at Leeds, just like knocking.
Oh, he's brilliant.
GN.
I don't know about FPL, but real life. Oof,
we need to speak about him for FPL, actually, Seb.
You reckon?
Because again, if Leeds double, I'm going Nonto, Havertz to Nonto.
I mean,
and that is my Italian bias.
As much as I hate it, just Rodrigo is. Because Bamford still is not fit. And I don't even know, early in the season, I was like, we need Bamford in. And I still think our team is better with Bamford or a Bamford-like striker. But we've just signed Jorginho Rutter as well. And he's just another runner, another dribbler, another ball at his feet, facing the goal. We're just playing as many runners as we possibly can and never passing it ever again. So I think it's still Rodrigo if you want a Leeds player.
Yeah.
In the short term, at least.
Okay. If I go Leeds, I'm going Nonto, but that's because I want to own an Italian. It's FPL.
And
I
is
can't
he
often do
under
that.
5 last time I looked?
He's 5.0. When I checked the other day, it's
5.0. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I mean,
he's amazing.
His place is safe. Sinisterra is still a little while out. Somerville is out for about a month, I think. So his place should be safe. Very exciting in real life. His carries are amazing. He's I think he's got since joining, or since the restart, I think it was, he's got the third furthest carry distance in the league, something like that. He's brilliant. But for FPL, Rodrigo probably got the better numbers. He's got penalties.
Against Villa, for FPL, Nonto could have had a mega haul.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, if buts and maybes. If buts and maybes. So yeah, I can't remember where we were before the Leeds. Before I gave you some leads.
we were talking Liverpool.
That was it.
We went off on Hackpo, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
By the way, just for anyone listening, in my opinion, which counts for very little, do your best to say a player in the correct way, but it's not the end of the world. Unless a player comes out and says, "Please say my name this way," we're doing our best. No one's pronouncing the names perfectly unless you're native. So whatever. I think people can get a little bit too precious over that, unless of course the individual has said they have a preference.
Yeah, that is a fair point. I can see above average FPL. Oh my God, please don't try and pronounce Matt Doherty, because again, it's I remember Andy, Let's Talk, always saying to me, it's not Doherty, because I'd say Doherty. But it's not Doherty.
It's with a hard H. So obviously we're talking again, to re-emphasize, as far as I'm concerned, make a best effort, but don't matter if you miss. It's cool. But I think even Hackpo, when I'm saying it like that, it's with the Dutch accent, it's obviously a bit more guttural, and I almost don't want to do it because it feels like I'm still an English person putting on a Dutch accent for someone's name, and then I'll switch back, and it almost feels like, I don't know what the word is. It almost feels like trying too hard and not actually being any less insulting if I get it wrong. They mentioned this on the Tifo podcast a while ago, and it was that make the effort to make the suggestion that you're doing it correctly, but also don't just do an impression of a Dutch person or an Italian person or an Irish person, right? Because if anything, that'll just make it worse. I think if you're honest and just do your best. This has all got very.
We have taken this way off topic, but I love it. Bruno Fernandes is another example. Me going Bruno Fernandes, so I just sound like but you hear it. Andrew Cole, not Andy Cole.
I mean, your second name, my second name. I can't talk, right? No one's going to get mine right, and I don't really mind too much. Anyway,
my first name everyone gets wrong, and I never correct them. I get Gianni all the time, and it's Gianni, but I'm cool with that.
John.
Yeah, just call me John. Exactly. I'm not bloody Italian anyway. People that's the thing, isn't it? No one thinks I am anyway.
FPL Cowboy saying Seb going all Steve McLaren. Yeah, I fun. Not that this has anything to do with today's stream, but fun one for that. That sort of sh sound that everyone associates with Dutch. It doesn't exist, or it does, but not in the way people think. That isn't the word sheep, for example. They don't sort of sheep or anything. It's kind of it's the anglicized attempt at a Dutch accent and the Dutch words. And yeah, there's a good.
Steve McLaren.
I think because I'm learning a bit of Dutch for my partner and for our kid. Again, so off topic. Just skip forward 2 minutes. But there's during World War II, I think a proper Dutch person will correct me here. But one of those things for telling you if you're a spy or legit or whatever. One of the things that people used to get asked in the Netherlands was to pronounce a place name, which I believe it was Scheveningen, which is obviously a place in the Netherlands, and it's something that I'm guessing if anyone's heard that who's a native will have said I've murdered it, but I hope I did a better attempt than say someone who hasn't looked at the Dutch language. And the idea there being is it's just those sounds that without growing up with it, your mouth just isn't making those sounds correctly. You'll get 90%. Anyway, to bring this all back around, I guess that's what I'm saying, right? Unless you've grown up there, you're not going to do it. Be respectful, do your best. Tell me about Liverpool. Are they terrible? Is Klopp getting sacked?
I'm sure last night he said something like we've turned a corner or we needed that or that was a good performance. And I'm like, dude, what part of 0.15 XG against Wolves makes you think you've turned a corner? like I know it's a results business and clearly that's how he's thinking. He's trying to pass that positivity onto the dressing room. I saw that headline and was like, oh, Liverpool are quite good. I logged on to Twitter, top of my timeline, saw the XG and was thinking, hello, 0.15. Chelsea played Liverpool at the weekend. I'd seen that they'd beaten Wolves and thought, oh, that's not a great time now to be playing Liverpool.
Yeah.
Then I saw the XG numbers that Wolves had against them and vice versa and thought, this is still a very good time to be playing Liverpool. So Kai Havertz, step up again because that hat-trick of headers you should have got last time out, well, I should have got 15 points and gone mental on Twitter and had loads of people hate me. I'm getting that again this week. Come on, Kai, let's go big.
I mean, the Klopp comment reminds me of the when playing rugby back at like a uni and then a bit of county. It was always that very basic like team motivation tactic is when the team plays well, you tell them the things they did wrong and tell them they can do better. When the team plays badly, you tell them the things they did right and you tell them that they're doing fine and we can do this. Obviously, when you're talking to the press, that's a bit different. I think the thing to remember, at least for me, when we're listening to managers talking press conferences, is first and foremost, none of them want to be there. Secondly, they will mostly be there to defend their team or defend players. And that doesn't mean not saying they did badly, but, Klopp will go into the dressing room and he might rip someone apart. If you then ask him about it in a press conference, there's a very good chance he'll decide to defend that player because the point is not necessarily to hang that person out to dry publicly. You keep that internally, you support your team publicly. Of course, that's not a rule. That's not, there are exceptions to that rule. But generally, I think the things we see from managers in press conferences, Pep's famous for lineups and tactics and, don't take it all too seriously. I think we need to remember that they are putting on a performance. It isn't necessarily the truth.
I'm with you there, mate. Love that. I love that we veered off topic and brought it back round as well. And even our football-related non-FPL chat at the end there, I think is also really interesting. And the Liverpool journey is going to be really, really interesting because they've got so many good FPL assets if they click, but these are high-priced assets to own if they're not clicking. And Robbo and Salah and you could say Trent and Darwin. Like at some point, I've no doubt we'll be looking at buying them later in the season.
From an FPL perspective, the interesting thing is we don't necessarily have to assess if they're playing well or badly. We just need to. Oh, just been told I've been signed out there. That's interesting. Let's see if the stream keeps going. As signing in Mexico potentially. But yeah, I think it's interesting from an FPL point of view whether we need to assess how the team is doing, whether Klopp can turn the team around, or if there's just the fixtures and the players to take advantage. You don't have to hold Salah or Trent all season. Yeah. So let's answer this question while we're here then, and then we can wrap up. Rolling, making a transfer, Brighton, what are you thinking?
I think likely to roll or go Solly March. I'm going to go 60% roll, 40% March. It could be Botman for Ake, but that would need Ake to be dropped, and I don't think that's going to happen. So let's ignore that until Thursday night could change stuff. But yeah, 60-40 on rolling or March. But yeah, Almiron on the chopping block. Seb, only 56 people of the 458 have liked. I find that highly insulting. Please, guys, hit that like button.
Our pronunciation in Dutch chat was just not what people were here for at 2:00 on a Wednesday afternoon. But really, I mean, it's a Gianni and Seb stream. What did you expect? FPL? Come on.
Yeah, I think we're clearly going to veer off topic, and it'll be the same again next week. So stay tuned. With as still in Mexico, so Seb's taking the reins yet again.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
I think so. Well,
why not?
We'll perhaps talk more about Leeds because I think Nonto's going to have a good weekend and he's going to become an FPL thing very soon. And I think he'll be the FPL asset over Rodrigo